There we go. So the agenda, I'm going to go over who I am. I'm not really highly known, so we're going to go through that. We're going to talk about AIM, which is Angler Inside Media, the Weekend Walleye series. We're going to go through how the process works of fishing, what it's like for people that have never done it, the process of how weigh-ins work and things like that. Some insight of things I've noticed over the past couple of years of doing it. I'm going to go over, obviously, my fishing partner, which is, in my terms, the old man. He's a good dude. So it kind of goes well with the whole AIM team aspect of things. So we have a lot of fun with it. I'm going to go into kind of what we do, our motto, things like that, things we've learned. Got some people coming on here. If you unmuted yourself, I just asked to just go ahead and make sure you're muted. Keep rolling here. We're going to go over Navionics as well. I'm going to talk a little bit about the mobile app, SonarCharts Live, obviously, a little bit about Plotter Sync and the actual SonarCharts, what the differences is, or what the differences are, things like that. A lot of people, I read a lot of social media forums and things like that on Facebook and different forums that are out there online, Walleye Central, In-Depth Outdoors, things like that. And there's always lots of questions about, how does this work? Or why isn't this doing this? Or why doesn't it look perfect? We're going to talk about things like that. And at the end there, we're going to have a little Q&A session. Like Kurt said before, we do ask that if you do have a question, just hold it till the end. We'll try to get to everybody's questions. If not, we will have I'll put my email address, Kurt's email address, and actually Denny's as well. So if you have any questions on AIM or Navionics, we'll be glad to answer those. So who I am, my name is Chris Messerschmidt, part of the NPAA, National Professional Anglers Association, number 803. If anybody knows my dad, he's 804, kind of sequence there. I started fishing at a young age with my grandfather, my dad, and an actual great uncle, family, all that sort of thing. Grew up fishing Red Lake, Lake of the Woods, a lot of Mille Lacs, so I'm familiar with all those big lakes, Winnebagosh and things like that. The one thing I can honestly say is I've never really fished a lot of the smaller lakes that I know are better, just because we just never did. We always had family time, which was a lot of fun. So I've always had some people that I always looked up to in the industry. Obviously, the guys from the Next Bite, Keith, Chase, and Gary, I like how they present themselves out in the field. You talk to them at shows, super nice guys, always willing to ask a question. I kind of looked up to those guys for a long, long time. So actually getting to meet those guys and fish with against them is kind of a cool experience. I've learned a lot from them. I would say that the aspiring tournament angler is kind of vague there. I don't think I'll ever make it my day-to-day job. I don't think it pays as good as my job. If anybody's seen my tournament finishes, unfortunately, so I'm gonna stick to my day-to-day job, but I'll still have fun being the tournament angler and that sort of thing. I started fishing tournaments with my dad. It was a kind of a whim thing. It was nothing that, hey, this is the road we're going to take to do AIM and anything like that. It was more or less my dad bought a new boat. Let's and there's a tournament on Mille Lacs. Let's go give it a try. We did it. Had a ton of fun with it. Actually didn't finish too bad in our first tournament. So it kind of led us to think, hey, can we do more? So we actually looked at the rest of the tournament series dates. We ended up fishing, I think, most of the stuff on those and or most of the events in that circuit, and had a lot of fun. Met a lot of cool people. To this day, still good friends. Matt Jollymore, he might be on here. People like that, Doug, and I've met a lot of really good people that I still fish with today. So I thank them all for helping me out, kind of guiding me, especially the old man. We've learned a lot from all those people as well. Like I said, I started off with a small circuit. We kind of wanted more just to see what was happening. There was a two-girl female team that I know of, and they were fishing the AIM Mille Lacs event. And I thought, that'd be cool. Again, another lake that I'm familiar with, Mille Lacs here in Minnesota. We decided next year, the following year, we're gonna give it a shot. So that's when we jumped into the AIM series, and boy, was I nervous when that happened. And I think my dad will vouch for that as well. You just don't know what to expect. There's way more boats. It's just crazy. So that was a whole new experience for me. But you know what? I wouldn't take that back for anything. It's an adrenaline rush. It's a lot of fun. So if you haven't done it, I'd highly suggest it. I'm a huge walleye fisherman. I do kind of fish for everything, so I spend a lot of my time, or as much as time as I can, on Mille Lacs with my dad. I fished with my little 5-year-old. I got my 3-year-old out last year in the boat, which is also fun. So looking forward to fishing with the kids a little bit more too. Hopefully in the future, I get to fish with my 5-year-old in a couple of kids tournaments, which would be a lot of fun for me and probably for her too. So a couple extra pictures here. I do a lot of ice fishing. I don't get out as much as I would like to, but again, spend most of my time up on Mille Lacs. I do fish a lot of crappies down here in the metro area. If you ever see me out in the lake, don't be afraid to say hi. I'm willing to share information. I'm not too shy about it. I also do like to sturgeon fish. That's one of my favorite things to fish if I'm not fishing a tournament is sturgeon in the spring up on the Rainy River. It's a blast. There's been a couple of times I've gone up there and not caught anything, but I took a buddy and my dad up there for their first time just catching walleyes, and it was slow walleye day. I said, let's try sturgeon fishing, and we hammered the sturgeon, and getting double fish tagged, 2 personal best. Those trips are a lot of good memories. So that's always a fun time for me. Even though it's miserable cold, it's still a good time. Oh, and for my bass guys, don't worry. I do a little bass fishing once in a while. It's not my favorite thing to do, but I will do it. It's nice. It's a nice change up once in a while. I'm not going to consider myself a high-end bass guy because I really don't know what I'm doing half the time. I just basically throw spinner baits and things like that and hope for the best. So, but I'm getting better, trying different techniques and stuff. So keep rolling here. I'm just going to throw a couple of sponsors out there. Obviously, Navionics has helped us out huge. Doing this webinar, things like that. Powertrain, another good one. RS Nets and HD Sod have all helped us along the way, right, to get where we're at. Now let's talk about the AIM Weekend Walleye Series. AIM stands for Anglers Insight Media, and kind of what is it? All right, it's a 2-person team walleye series, basically. You go out, 2 guys in a boat, whether your partner, whoever your partner is, it could be anybody. There are a couple of different divisions. My slide is not working here, but there we go. I did them in the wrong order. We got Wisconsin, Minnesota, and North Dakota. And I do have the 2018 lists of lakes for each of the different divisions, where they're actually at. Obviously, Wisconsin, April 8th, Fox River, Green Bay. Looks like there's a lot of good stuff out there. And their championship looks like it's out at Lake Winnebago, August 3rd and 4th. Minnesota here, we're starting at Otter Tail. Unfortunately, I'm probably not going to be able to make it due to other things. So I unfortunately won't be at that one. Kind of disappointed, but out of my control. Work schedule gets in the way once in a while. I'm really looking forward to Mille Lacs. I'm hoping that I'm crossing both fingers to hopefully to fish that one. I haven't fished an AIM series out there yet, and that would be a fun one. It's close to my parents' cabin, so we spent a lot of time out there, like I said, and I'm hoping we can do well out there. Another one that's Minnesota staple. It seems like every year, Leech Lake. That's probably one of my favorite ones, just because 2 years ago I haven't fished the lake since I'd probably say little, and going out there and learning new techniques was and to catch big walleyes was a lot of fun. I felt like I did pretty good the first year. Last year, I shot myself in the foot by not coordinating my bait situation too well, and kind of got shafted. I ran out of creek chubs, and unfortunately didn't get the fish I wanted to, but I knew where they were there. But that's the way it goes sometimes. That's tournament fishing. And another state championship for Minnesota Lake of the Woods this year, Baudette, August 17th and 18th. That is going to be a heck of a good time. I know 2 years ago it was up there, and I had a lot of fun, although it was miserable, rainy, and storming. And I was up past Garden Island. That was a brutal ride, but again, those are the days you learn from, and it's a lot of fun. North Dakota, same thing. Missouri River, they got some pretty good ones. Lake Sakakawea, Devil's Lake too. Their championship is out at Lake Sakakawea out of Indian Hills. So if anybody is on here and looking to do your first tournament in any of those states, those are some good lakes to choose from. The other thing I don't think many people know of too is just because you live in Wisconsin doesn't mean you can't fish Minnesota or North Dakota or vice versa. I know a lot of people or a lot of guys from Wisconsin, especially out in the Green Bay area, things like that. They'll venture over to Minnesota and fish the Minnesota series, which is kind of fun to see those guys. We hardly get to see the Wisconsin guys, just because a lot of times they stick to their divisions, which is fine. But it's good to see the intertwine between the different states and see different people fishing. And it's good to grow friendships with those guys. I know I've grown a teammate out from the Wisconsin area. I think he's listening. So good dude. His dad is a really good guy. Kind of family friends. So it's good to see that stuff. AIM National Championship. That was thrown out, I think, at the NPAA conference, the 2018 conference at Wisconsin Dells. This year, 2018 championship will be at the Chippewa Flowage up in Wisconsin in the Hayward area. I'm actually really excited to, unfortunately, I don't get to fish it. Oh, well, that's the way it goes. I'm looking forward to seeing how these guys do out at the Chippewa Flowage. I've fished that a few times in the past. I don't get it 100%, but I always did pretty well out there. So I'm really curious to see the numbers and the fish that these guys pull in. Should be a cool tournament, and the weight should be pretty good because I know there's some nice fish out there. Qualifying, obviously I spoke about the three different championships, Minnesota, Wisconsin, and North Dakota. How do you qualify if you've never done an AIM tournament? Basically how it works is if you can finish within the top 5 teams for either of the divisions, you're in. If at the state championship for your state or your division, if you finish in the top 5, you're in. And the other cool thing that I got word today, because I didn't quite totally get how it worked, but Denny filled me in. But if one of the teams that finished in the top 5 for the year and one of the teams or that same team finished in the top 5 for the championship, they're automatically in already, and the next person down gets in, which is really cool. It gives other people a chance. So I kind of like that. But again, it's going to be interesting this year to see how people actually fish that flowage up there. It's going to be pretty cool. AIM, catch, record, and release format. A lot of other tournaments, Bassmasters, NWT events. I think some of that, I've never fished the MWC tournaments or anything like that, so I can't really say how they work, but I know a lot of them don't do the catch, record, and release format. I'm a huge fan of it. The reason being is I don't have to keep fish alive in my live well, or my dad would agree as well. It's hard on fish. I know the mortality rate really isn't that high for tournaments. They do take pretty good care of their fish, but I like being able to go out there and catch as many fish as I can and take my top 5 fish. I don't care about keeping fish alive. I catch the fish, take a picture, record it, let it go. If nobody's ever seen this, it's a pretty quick, easy process. I know Denny goes over this in full at the rules meeting. So if you've never fished a tournament and you want to see how it's done, I do have a video here, the one that actually Denny shows at the rules meetings. I'm gonna see if I can get this to play here. It's a minute or so long. Let's go ahead and see if this works here. Bear with me. There we go. Hopefully everybody can see this. And obviously my internet's rather slow. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and play this. This is how this is actually Chase Parsons, who's gonna show you how the catch, record, and release actually works.
You got him? He's right here. Yep, he's right here behind you. All right. Oh, nice. Good job. All right, why don't you grab the camera, Cody? Okay, I'll get the camera. Yep. Turned it on. I'll get the net out of your way when you're ready. He's on hook there. Okay. And let's see. Looks like we got just over 22.5.
Oh, buffering. That's no good. Your internet connection is unstable. That's fantastic. You gotta love technology these days.
So 22 3/4. Okay, ready? Yep, ready for the picture. There's the shot. Got it. Okay. Now the hero 22 shot. 22 3/4 hero shot. Got it. Got it. Perfect. And release. All right, 22 3/4. Yep. All right, time to fish.
All right, so as you can see, that was roughly 50 seconds, just short of a minute on catching that fish, recording it, taking a picture, and getting it back in the water onto the next one. Again, I think it's a pretty cool process, especially when you get the first one out of the day. I can't even tell you how many times I've maybe yelled boom shakalaka across the lake and just for a 12-inch fish. I think my dad will agree to that one. You know, we get pretty jacked up. So again, the catch, for record, release. Again, Denny goes over this pretty well in the tournament or in the rules meeting. Obviously, belly to belly, follow the rule and the ruler that they actually give you. You take a picture, and obviously you can see this one is just short of 30. Looks like 29.5 somewhere in there. Whatever it is, you round up to the next 1/4 inch. And so that's one picture. The reason they do this is they can see one side of the picture and know that you're not using the same fish twice. Any markings and things like that. Once you're done measuring your fish, figuring out how long it is, taking that picture, you take the next one. And there's a nice, beautiful walleye. I wish that was in my boat one day. But there's the hero shot. Looks like Mr. Heath Hagerdorn with a nice one there. After that, fish goes over. And now we look at the card. So on the back of the actual scorecard, there's a length to weight conversion chart. So you take your fish, how long it is. Let's say you got a 19.25 inch fish. It's 2.76 pounds. Again, take your top 5 fish, put them on the card, but you're going to put every fish on the card. Doesn't matter what it is, up until you get your top 5 best ones. Okay. And usually, I'm not going to say everyone because every tournament, but for the most part, there's a 12-inch minimum length walleye or sauger. So again, catch as many as you want. You're just looking for the big ones. This is what a scorecard looks like. A couple of guys out of the AIM Championship, I think it was last year maybe, out of Oconto, had a massive scorecard, 42.69 pounds. Again, I hope I get one of those one of these days. That'd be pretty sweet. That's a killer card right there. But again, you can see they caught more than 5. But again, they took their top 5 best fish, and you can catch as many as you want. If there are any questions regarding AIM, I would highly suggest reaching out to Denny Fox. I got his phone number and email here. And don't worry, at the end, I got his information as well. Keep rolling here. So, fishing partner, like I said before, me and my old man, his name is Brian Messerschmidt, good guy. He's always taken the time to help me, show me the ropes when I was younger, along with my grandpa and great uncle. I can't even tell you how many great times we've had in the boat. We've had a lot of stuff on Facebook, or I at least have. He's not a huge Facebook guy. I guess I'm a social media dork. But I started a thing called CBM Outdoors. The link is in the bottom. If you ever want to follow us, tournament results, things like that, go check us out, like the page. This year I'm going to try to step it up a little bit. It's kind of a learning process for me last year. Trying to do some videos on how things work at tournaments. You know, sometimes it's bloopers, things like that. I know last year everybody likes to make fun or jab my dad a little bit because he likes to run out of oil in actual events, which is frustrating. But you have to sit back and laugh because it's funny things that you just forget. You can't take things too serious, which you'll see here shortly. This is my big motto: teamwork makes the dream work. I use this in my day-to-day job. My boss, I think, hopefully he's not watching. He thinks this is a funny one. I do try to get, I'm a huge advocate of teamwork. So if you got a good team, you can make things work. And that's why I fish with my dad. I think we do things well. We have a process. We don't usually stray away from it too often. And we fish well. Yeah, obviously there's times where he knows I have a temper in the boat. I know I've tried to almost Bo Jackson my fishing rod over my knee a few times or thrown it in the bottom of the boat. But when you lose that big fish, there's nothing more frustrating than that. And I'm probably not speaking for myself. There's others that get pretty upset. But it is what it is. You learn from it and you move on to the next one. How we roll. Like I said before, we love to have fun. All right, I try not to take things too serious, but like I said just a second ago, yeah, I do get pretty frustrated once in a while if I lose that big fish. And I think there was a skunk at I think it was Big Stone. I lost a very large fish at the boat. I was not happy, and I think anybody around the lake might have heard. But again, I said that's the way it goes. So you just got to move on with it. And try to think of the positive things. I will say that if anybody's very close to us during fishing tournaments, we laugh a lot. And maybe it gets annoying, but it gets us through the day. I will say at some events that there has been some pretty funny times. I know a friend of Andy Walsh, I know Brian Brosdahl was close to us. We were all fishing a spot, and the walleyes just would not bite. Do you just give up and go home? No, you want to keep rolling with it. So you try to make light of the situation. I know he's going to laugh if he's watching, but we had a side bet on pike. We did a side tournament for pike just for fun. It was just a funny thing that we kind of keep going to this day. That's just things that keep you going. It's a lot of fun. So again, laugh a lot, have fun with it. It is a lot of fun. The next thing I would say is learning. Going into tournament fishing, I had no idea what I was getting myself into. I was a guy that would just either sit with a jigging rod in my hand or sit in Lindy rig. That was basically all I knew. So the biggest thing I could say for anybody that's looking to tournament fish is, or at least get better, not only if you're a weekend warrior or whatever it is, be willing to try something new. And the reason I say that is because jig and minnow doesn't always work. Lindy rigging doesn't always work. You might have to switch to something else. Covering more water, trolling. That's the hugest thing I think I've learned over the past few years. How to troll crankbaits. If you had asked me the first tournament, go troll a crankbait, I would have said you're nuts. That's not my thing. But now that's one of my favorite things to do. There's technique into it. I think there's a little bit of a skill thing that goes into it. The other thing I love to do is probably my favorite way to fish is live bait rigging with very large minnows. Something, again, never done. Was out fishing on, again, Mille Lacs, again, fish out there a lot. We were actually fishing for smallmouth because walleye were closed. And I kept seeing pictures of somebody out there that was on the lake at the same time, throwing up some huge bass, some huge smallmouth bass. And I was like, what are you doing? I hadn't gotten a bite all day. Sent him a message. He said, go get the biggest creek chubs you can find, pull those things around. I went and bought a pile of massive creek chubs, as many as I could get, and within 5 minutes, the weirdest thing, walleye. My dad caught. I think my dad had a pretty nice walleye on. After that, it wasn't a few more minutes, another walleye. It's not something we were targeting, but it's something you learn from. Now I actually use that in tournaments, which has become my favorite way to honestly catch fish is pulling, 6 to 8 inch creek chubs. I've had people say, look at my bait box that don't fish tournaments, and they're, what the heck are you going to do with those? Hey, I'm going to catch walleyes, and they look at me like I'm crazy. That's all right. Not everybody knows those things, and it's you just got to be willing to try it and think outside the box. So the next one there, be versatile. Trying all those different techniques, having all those things in your back pocket, I think it goes a long way. If you come into the tournament world wanting to be a jig fisherman, I will honestly say you're probably going to have a pretty tough time. A lot of tournaments are won different ways. The biggest thing there too, which I'm going to skip one here, is listen. I would say me and my dad, we try to sit at the end of tournaments, and if we can, stay for the award ceremony. I want to hear how these guys did it. Whether you can believe everything you hear is to be decided, but for the most part, you can see what guys are doing on the water and things like that. So I do learn a lot actually staying at those meetings and listening to the people around me and listening to the other anglers. So that's another good one. The next one there, or the third one down, be a grinder. Like I said, there's days when obviously the fish just will not bite. I've had guys that I looked up to, I've known about all my life. Brian Brosdell, I saw him struggle at an event. He was fishing right next to us the whole time. Didn't have a fish the whole event, and I think I wanted to say he was the one that said, just keep going. They're here, they'll bite. They didn't, but I've learned that you got to just grind it out. You might not get them at all times. Just keep at it. Keep trying to figure it out, changing baits, changing techniques, things like that. Eventually you'll figure something out, and hopefully the fish will turn on. The other thing about being a grinder is don't give up. I'd say my biggest way of shooting myself in the foot was, I think, our first ever tournament on Mille Lacs. I look back at it now and a learning thing and say we might have gave up a little too early. But again, it's one of those learning processes. Don't stop fishing until you really need to head back. I think we felt like we stopped a little early, and we could have probably put a few more fish in because we were actually, I feel like, maybe leading the tournament up until 1:30 that day, and everybody at the weigh-in basically said we didn't get our fish until after 2, which means we were doing good up until then. We should have stuck it out a little longer. But again, it's one of those things you learn about. I don't try to give up until the last second. I may push that boundary a little bit, but I'll always be back on time. And the last one there, be a geek. Mr. Kirk Hedquist, who is, I know, listening, likes to call me a geek. I know other people have as well. I have some buddies that say, man, you're a nerd with the fishing electronics. You know what? I am. I don't mind it. I try to be as nerdy as I can with electronics. I'm going to kind of float through here because I kind of covered them all. Like I said, be willing to try new things. Live bait, obviously trolling lead core is something I learned. Slow death is another big one that I tried the first tournament. I think that's what really got me onto it. It's one of those things I never did. I do thank Mac Jollymore. I know he's listening. He gave me a pack of slow death hooks. I tried it out and did very well that first tournament. So that kind of hooked me with that technique. And that's another one of those key techniques that I really like to do and have a lot of luck with it. I know this year I've actually incorporated the whole plastic Berkeley stuff in, the killer crawlers, things like that. I actually got that technique and that tip from Mr. Robert Cardenas of the NWT. I watch a lot of his videos and I kind of learned that. So it's something you got to try, and you never know unless you don't try. Another one there, Fish the Weeds. I think our best finish last year as a place that I never fished in my life, always wanted to, just never got to, and that was the St. Louis River. We spent 2.5 days or something like that trying to find fish out on the lake. We even fished the river for a while and had no luck. I think we caught one walleye. It was small, and I think a coho salmon. I don't really know much about salmon, but hey, it was the first one in our boat. It was kind of cool. Good eating too, by the way. But I remember the AIM championship being out there, and I remember seeing those guys fishing on TV, because I do watch those as well on Facebook, on TV. I know Larry Smith Outdoors shows that stuff, so I do get into it. I thought to myself, hey, let's go up and try that area. The old man said he was pretty kind of, let's go up and try it as well. And, within 5 minutes, I think I cracked a 20-incher, and we had two or three other fish in no time. And it was something that I couldn't believe, because I have never caught walleyes in the dead of summer in 3 feet of water in weeds behind planer boards, something I've never done with spinner blades. So that was a really cool experience. I actually do want to try to get up there and do that, not at an event, just to do it, because it was a lot of fun. Never done that. The catfish you catch up there too is a lot of fun. Hearing that flag smack back when a walleye comes up and hits it is a pretty cool sound, and watching your board get drug under. That was my top thing for last year. We actually finished pretty well in that tournament, so that was another learning thing for me. Like I said earlier, be versatile. Always more than one way to fish. Be a grinder. Never give up. For the guys that do decide to take the leap into the tournament scene, that's my biggest thing. Don't give up. Always keep going. Try new things like that. And then, like I said before, listen. Pay attention to everybody around you. Don't come in with I'm the guy and I'm a good fisherman. I will tell you that's the worst thing you can do. I came into the first one thinking I was going to be the winner. I guess we all probably do. We hope that's the outcome, but not always does it happen. I would say stay humble. But again, pay attention to everybody around you. Make friends. Whether you like a person or not, be courteous to everybody is my biggest thing. I'm a big advocate of staying away from drama and stuff like that, because obviously it does happen once in a while. But for the most part, I would say 99% of everybody in the tournament scene and AIM is super nice. Again, I will say be cautious of what kind of information you take to heart, because we're all fishermen. We all want to win, so we might fib a little bit here and there. So not to say that I ever do it, but hey, it happens. And again, stay to the end. Hear the winners, listen to them talk. What they did is always a good one for me. I get a lot out of those. If I can, I always like to stay. But sometimes it doesn't always work out that way. I do have a normal 9 to 5, or if Kurt wants to call it 9 to 10 a.m. job that I got to be to on Monday. So sometimes I got to get back, and I do travel a lot for work. So not always does it give me time to stay or actual pre-fish a lot. Just do what you can. And again, pay attention to your surroundings. Pay attention to what people are doing actually on the water. and it'll help out. It's a good way to learn. Like I said before too, being a geek, Kurt Hedquist, he loves just to call me a geek. So do some of my buddies, but again, that's all right. I'm huge on learning my electronics. The biggest thing I can say is learn to trust your electronics. If you don't trust, oh, hello, we all here. I got a really bad connection there for a second. Knowing your electronics, trusting them. I would say try to figure out as much as you can. Be a tweaker, as I like to say. I'm always trying to mess around, trying to get a good picture, messing with contrast, different frequencies for my transducers, things like that. I always want the best picture I can. Knowing your maps. For me, that's the biggest thing. I'm not only sitting out in the boat, even when I'm not catching fish, I'm looking around for that next spot. How does this spot look? Or how does that spot look? I like to try different things. And even when I'm at home, right here, I got a phone. Navionics app is huge for me. I sit and use that a lot. Whether I'm just sitting out hanging with the kids, I shouldn't be on my phone so much. Even my boss will probably say that. But I look at Navionics web app, or the web app, and my phone app a lot. I'm always, again, like looking for that new spot. Practice, practice, practice. I know I'm a Lowrance guy, so I know if when I get my boat here, hopefully this week or next week, I can hook up a graph and sit on my couch and link my iPad or phone to my graph that's on my garage via wireless. It's a way for me to tinker, play around with settings, and set up things the way I want. So I do a lot of practicing and messing around with that stuff, because I try not to practice out on the lake because there's more important things I should be doing. Studying is another big one. Whether it's the manual, whether it's like I do, I read a lot of YouTube videos, or watch a lot of YouTube videos. I do read a lot of Doc Sonar stuff, which it puts out a great set of videos. So if you're ever wondering how to mess around with HDS or Hummingbird or any of those types of things, those are good videos to watch to help you learn how to play with that stuff. So next thing, like I said, Navionics Mobile App. I'm a huge advocate of this. The reason I say that is not only in the summer, but like I said, I ice fish a lot with a lot of friends and things, and we all have the boating app on our phone. There's 3 different versions: the Boating US, Boating USA in Canada, and the Boating HD version. The US and US Canada boating versions, those are both available on Android and iPhone. You can go to the App Store or the Google Store, whatever it's called, and get those. I think the Boating USA is $9.99 a year and $4.99 a year after that for your subscription, which I'll talk about subscriptions here in a little bit. If you fish Canada and you want to have those Canadian lakes on your phone or the boating app as well, they do one of those. I think that one's $15.99 with a yearly subscription. So both are good. It just depends on if you fish Canada or not, whether you want that. The last one there, the Boating HD version, there seems to be a lot of confusion on really what that is online. I look at a lot of Ice Fishing Minnesota, Ice Junkies, all those sorts of different platforms on Facebook, again on different forums online, and everybody always says, well, what's the HD version? What does that really get? The HD version is basically just like the Boating US and Canada, but it's optimized for your tablet, whether it's an Android tablet or an iPhone tablet. It has better resolutions for the bigger screen, where you might be able to get the Boating USA to work on there, but your resolution's probably not going to be the greatest, and it might be hard to read. Down at the bottom, I have a little blurb there. I have a plotting card. I'm just going to read it here. If the subscription or your registered plotter card expired, you can update the easy way. Order a new card with up to a 50% off from either your desktop or your mobile device, which is the app. So just make sure you log into your to the Navionics website or the boating app using the same account that you registered your Navionics card with. If you're on the mobile, obviously you go to menu, charts, and upgrades, and you can make that order and update your stuff. I highly suggest always keeping a subscription, especially at least for the boating app. If you're an ice fisherman, that's, you know, everybody always says, oh, well, I gotta have a subscription every year. To me, it's $4.99. It's one less Caribou coffee or one less crankbait I get to buy. Big deal. I'm going to spend the money. I want those updates. I update my stuff a lot. At least I would say twice a month. I'm probably updating my cards and updating my phone app. So when you do get the app, there are different settings you can do. You got the nautical chart, you have sonar charts, and then community edits. A lot of people don't know the difference between the whole Navionics portion. Down on the lower left, you have an icon which you can select. What is Navionics? What is sonar charts? The biggest difference I can say is Navionics is older data, where sonar charts is your updated data, where, you know, people like me and different tournament anglers, they're out there logging. You know, we try to update as much as we can. We cover a lot of water. So I want to have the latest charts. And when we do those logs, those eventually, within, I think it's a week, they say, that stuff eventually gets, when we're doing our logging, gets pushed out to the end user. So I think that's a huge benefit for those guys. Us as well, because then we get to see it on our graphs. We get to use what's called plotter sync, where we can take a lot of our waypoints and logs and things like that and transfer them from our app to our HDS. Well, I'm speaking for myself here. HDS units, if you have wireless. Okay. On your, if you ever want to update your Navionics boating app on your tablet or on your phone, again, go down the bottom, choose menu, and then hit update all or download map. Basically, the difference there is update all will update the existing area that you've already chosen in the past, where download map, that is basically just going to say, hey, what portion of the U.S., or if you have U.S. and Canada, what portion do you want to download? It gives you a selectable area, so you can say, well, I want to download this one lake. It lets you do that. Sonar charts and Sonar Charts Live. This is another big thing I love to do, and maybe sometimes I do it a little too much, but I don't feel that there's a little too much. Every time I'm on the water, I am logging. I want my maps to be as up to date as possible, especially for those spots I fish. You know what? And again, this goes to the end user. A lot of people say, again, going back to these forums and stuff, they say, well, my map isn't up to date, or this spot isn't that great, it's way off. The only way to make it better is if we're out there logging. I don't think a lot of the end users really know how to do the whole logging or really understand what Sonar Charts Live is. They might not even be able to do it themselves. But I would say take the time, learn how to do it. I've provided some cool links here, and you'll see some in the next couple of slides too, of if you're ever wondering how to do it, some links on here. It's almost step-by-step for you. I know we don't have a ton of time to really go through each individual graph and each function. So I provided some good links for everybody if you're wanting to see that stuff. The biggest thing, again, make sure your subscriptions are valid. If your subscription isn't valid on your card or your app on your phone or tablet, you're going to have a heck of a time. You're still going to have your maps, obviously, but you're not going to get to take advantage of the cool features like Sonar Charts Live and plotter sync and things like that. So you can see up here on the top of the slide here, it says Sonar Charts and Sonar Charts Live. Really, what's the difference? Well, Sonar Charts Live is available for Raymarine, Lowrance, Simrad, and BNG units. Basically what that means is those units have built-in wireless or have Wi-Fi capabilities. And even like the Gen 2 Lowrance units that don't have wireless built in, they do make a go-free Wi-Fi module that I think you can still purchase. I may be wrong on that one. But if you want to do that, get that Wi-Fi module or get that new Carbon or get that HDS unit with the built-in Wi-Fi or some of the other Simrad units, things like that, and utilize that Sonar Charts Live. Again, it's super fast. The mapping is built on your screen, so you can see it instantly. You can change the transparency. So if you want to see what does this look like compared to my original Navionics chip, you can see what that difference is by adjusting that transparency. I do get a little carried away with it. I'm pretty anal about how I map. I got a screenshot of my graph here from a spot that we had fished last year. I will say it's on Leech Lake. I'll give that little tip away, but nobody will ever find it. But again, if you want to learn more about Navionics SonarCharts, there's a link there. There's a bunch of information. Again, I highly suggest using it. Again, this especially for us, a lot of the tournament guys. If you can use this, you're not only helping yourself by updating your map, you're also helping that end user from Navionics as well. This is how I use it. This may look like a cluster, but I knew what I was doing. I knew what the spot was, but I can tell you one thing: that spot is logged perfectly with all my lines in there. Yes, it was hard to figure out where I was going, but we went back and forth over that spot so many times. I kind of figured out how it was laid out, and I said, let's just keep going with the logging. So that's what my screen looks like after a day of logging. I think this was 1 day. So it gets pretty crazy, but it is what it is, and it's a lot of fun. Plotter Sync. Plotter Sync is basically taking those waypoints and your updates and things like that from your mobile app and pushing it to your unit back and forth. Raymarine, Lowrance, Simrad, BNG. Again, those are available because of the wireless capabilities of those units. If you're a Raymarine user, I provided a link on how that works, what it is. Same thing with Lowrance, Simrad, and BNG units. There's a link down there on how that works. It's a pretty cool feature. It takes some getting used to, but once you figure it out, it's pretty cool and a lot of help. I use it quite a bit. So SonarCharts. I just talked about SonarCharts. Excuse me. What SonarCharts Live was, and again, that's based for the wireless units, which is it's right now. It's happening. It's drawing it out as you see it. But now we're going to talk about what Navionics SonarCharts is. It's kind of the same thing. The only difference is it's not happening live. You're having to log your data. So if you're in question about how to set it up on your Humminbird, Raymarine, Simrad, Lowrance, Garmin, follow these links. These links will tell you how to start your sonar logs, what to do with them, how to set it up, and I believe on the website it's about a week turnaround to get your information back once you update your card. I highly suggest everybody do this. Again, you're only benefiting yourself, and again, other people as well, especially me because I want to use your data. So I try to do this as much as I can, but I'm using more of the SonarCharts Live guy, again, just because I'm a Wi-Fi guy with Lowrance. So it's a very good thing to use and learn. I mean, that's basically it. If you have questions that I don't answer here or after this webinar is done, I provided my email as well as Kurt Hedquist's email, Denny Fox as well. His email and phone number is out there. So let's go to questions. I gotta figure out how that works here. No questions? We gotta have some questions here. We got chat. What's chat? Mr. Matt Jollymore, he's running a ZV-18 this year. Oh, look at this. Here we got a whole bunch of stuff. Matt Jollymore is just having a ball with this. No questions. Kurt, do you have anything to add?
I do not have anything to add. I think if anybody has any questions, again, if you cursor down to the bottom of the page or the top of the page, there'll be a pop-up and it'll say Q&A, and we can look at the questions.
Okay.
And Matt has happy fingers tonight.
Yeah, he does have happy fingers for that. That's all right. We like that. Thanks, Matt. Thanks for the good job. Boy, he's
Oh,
still
there's
going.
something.
There we go. Mr. Denny Fox, what is more important to you in your boat, the graph or the GPS? You know, I'm going to say it's kind of a tough, that's tough. That's a tough question, but it's a good one. I would actually say GPS. The reason I say that is because I've been on a few bodies of water where you drive into fog, especially Lake Superior last year. You can get turned around pretty fast if you're not paying attention. You can't really trust your graph. So GPS for me is probably one of the biggest things I'm looking at. And again, doing those sonar charts lives and logs and things like that, I found a few spots that get pretty shallow. I do mark them with waypoints, so uh, it's one of those things that I hold true there. We got another question from Mr. Wesley Johnson. How important is it to attend the meeting the night before the tournament? How early do you arrive in the morning? That's a great question. Uh, Denny will probably back me up on this one. You have to go to the meeting. At least one person from your team has to be there. Uh, Not only should you be there, it's very important, especially if you don't, if you've never done it. Like I said, he does go over the how things work. What needs to be done. Uh, Given the ruler, given the how the SD card works, taking a picture. He goes over everything, so it's very important to be there for the meeting, especially if maybe boundaries have changed or something like that. So I would say highly suggest doing that. The other question that you had there as well is how early do we get to an event the next morning? Be honest with you, I like to be on the water as early as possible. Sometimes it's not so fun because you get there and it's not crowded right away, and you kind of just sit. But it's a good time to relax and gather your senses, set up some rods. But I'm usually, I would say, 5:30 at the latest 6 o'clock. If I'm staying where I'm actually at, where the tournament is actually going out of, I might sleep in a little bit because the boat's probably already in the water. But yeah, 5:30 to 6 o'clock is usually good for me. We like to get a good spot in the dock, and again, wind down. My old man likes to drink his coffee and eat his donut. I like to relax and things like that. The other thing I will say too about tournament fishing, if you've never done it, there's nothing more fun than an adrenaline rush on takeoff of watching all those boats go out. When you're hearing those numbers and it's getting closer and closer to your number, there's nothing I like more than doing that. And I think Mr. Kurt Hedquist, Mac, I think that's his favorite part of the whole the experience as well.
Yes, that's Mac's favorite part of the tournament is the takeoff. He loves the takeoff in the morning.
It's a lot of fun. It's like an all-out race for everybody. I will say this: do you need the fastest boat, or do you need the biggest boat, or the most shiny, glittery boat? No, you don't. I was actually at an event last year and watched two older guys rock it out and just destroy the field in an old tiller boat. That's the stuff I like to see right there. Because it doesn't matter how fancy you look in the water; it's how you perform and if you can find those fish. Power pull down, nice. How do you log charts with Hummingbird units? Heath Hagerdorn. I'll send you the link, but I did provide the link a couple of slides ago, but I'll send that out to you. Any more questions?
As far as me personally on the getting there, arriving the morning of, I like to be the first one in the parking lot to get the prime parking spot in the boat ramp at the parking lot.
I'll agree with you. I think I learned that from you. The first tournament I was at, you were there, and I asked you, what time do you get to the boat launch? I had that same exact question. So I think I've carried that through, or we've carried that through to all the events that we do now as well. Nothing worse than having to walk a long way and rush to get in your boat and get lined up.
Yeah, no, I will say to add to that too, make sure you got everything. It's always nice to get pre-rigged, get everything all set the night before, and that way we get to the boat ramp in the morning. You just got to worry about unhooking the boat, and of course, if you're a little stressed out, make sure you take your transom straps off too, so you don't look like so
that's a fantastic one. Yeah. There's
and put the plug in.
Yeah, put your plug in. I think I don't know if he's actually on, but I'm going to call out Mr. Justin Schneider. Last year on the river, I got to see him run around the river with water flying out the side of his boat because he forgot to put his drain plug in. But hey, you got an automatic bilge, let it run, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, we did that. Me and Mac did that on Green Bay. I said, Mac, put the plug in. He said, yes. And so I backed the boat in. It was tied to the dock. We walked back to the boat, and it was like sitting really low in the water. I said, did you put the plug in? And he said, what plug?
Whoops. Oh, we got a question here from Mr. Matt Jollymore. How important is the draw number you get for launching? That's actually a pretty good question. Most people get, they want that top number. And I think it depends on the lake. If you're down on the river, I would almost say if you get a better number, obviously and you have a fast boat, you're going to get to that spot faster. You're going to get, the cool thing about tournament fishing is you can get to that spot. And I learned this last year on the St. Louis River. We did beat, quite a few guys out to our spot, but they gave us our room. They knew, hey, you were there first. We're all adults and we can give each other room. So that was pretty cool to see. And I hope I carry that, and I hope I don't irritate anybody. I try not to get in anybody's way too if they're there first. So at big lakes though, I don't really think number is all that critical. Again, if you're towards the front, obviously, and you're in the first fleet, because there could be two fleets, if you're towards the back of that first fleet, you may lose a few minutes of fishing, but again, I don't think it's that big of a deal because big lakes are so big. We're not trying to all rush to the exact same spot, but it does help. So that's a good question, man. I like that one.
I learned a long time too, though. You think you got a spot all to yourself. You found the secret spot and you show up on tournament morning. It's like, well, I guess it isn't so secret.
Yeah.
Multiple spots or backups. You got to have, milk run of spots, because it's funny. You think you go there for a couple of days and pre-fish a spot off and on. You don't see another boat, and you show up tournament morning, and it's like, oh, where did all these guys come from? So
I hear you. Any more questions from anybody? All right, just about 30 minutes long.
Cool.
Hopefully I can get some people to sign up. Honestly, one thing I will add here too. Oh boy, Heath Hagedorn, is that Skeeter going to keep up with his ZV21? Oh, come on now. we got to start that already. I'm getting the Skeeter bashing already. One thing I will say is if you're thinking about joining a tournament, do it. It's a lot of fun. Again, you're going to learn from a lot of people, and I truly do think you can become a better fisherman by doing this stuff. Because another thing I've learned too is it doesn't matter when a tournament is. You're dealt with what you're dealt, whether it's thunderstorms, snow. I've been in hailstorms. I've gotten zapped by lightning or in a static storm. I shouldn't say I got zapped by lightning, but my dad got to see me get zapped twice by a rod in an electrical storm on Leech Lake 2 years ago. I tried to call him out for it, but I realized that it wasn't him. This is a great question, Matt Jollymore. Thank you for asking this, and I was actually going to cover it. I totally forgot. When does the sign up for the Minnesota AIM Series open? I believe that is tomorrow. If it's not tomorrow, it's the 2nd. It's within the next 2 days. So sign up. I think Minnesota is going to Thursday at 8 a.m. There you go, Matt. Denny Fox, February 1st, 8 a.m. is when sign up goes. I knew it was one of the 2 days. I would say the Minnesota guys, you probably, or anybody that's looking to fish Minnesota, you probably want to sign up as soon as possible, especially with Leach having a 2-day event. I truly believe that those are all going to be full. So get your registrations in sooner than later. I think that is it. How about a toughie versus a skeeter? Oh boy.
Throw that one in.
We're gonna be racing for racing for bragging rights on the waters now.
Might have to strap Mac on the motor.
Well, all right. I think that about does it. Anybody that is on still, I do want to thank everybody for listening to me ramble for a while. It was a lot of fun. Hopefully, I get to do another one of these in the future. It was a good learning experience for me doing my first one. So thank you all. Thanks, Kurt, for helping me out.
You're welcome. We're welcome. Like I said earlier, this is being recorded. If everything works out, we'll upload it to the YouTube, and Daniel will share a link on the AIM page so you guys can review it.
Sounds good. Thanks, Denny, again. Appreciate it, and thank you everybody for watching.
Good night.
Night.